So to summarize, shit's fucked. Hi guys, I'm so excited to continue part 2 of every single Warhammer faction re-explained today. I will split this one into more parts than the last one, just because I'm a little sick right now, so recording for a long period of time is just a little bit exhausting. But I hope you guys still enjoy it.
This video is part 2 in a 2-part series on every faction re-explained. If you've not seen part 1, you were either snatched by the YouTube algorithm, or you don't let anything, not even common sense, hold you back. And for that, well, I wish I could be that strong. The quest to find the primarchs was expansive and treacherous, to the point where they really should write a book about it. Despite never seeing the Emperor before in their lives, the primarchs all instinctively knew who the Emperor was. Whether it's his psychic connection to him or just plain old intuition,
They were like, man, that's my dad.
Giant golden god is a bit of a giveaway. The primarchs all lived their own lives, and some lived substantially better lives than others.
Hey gamers, editor here. Somehow Richard managed to record Discord notification into his voiceover. There are only a few, don't worry, just didn't want y'all to be confused. Girl, I was a little confused, I'm not gonna lie.
Butte Gilliman of the Ultramarines rose through the ranks of his worlds and ended up turning an entire sector into a high-functioning society, where others, like Mortarion, lived on the poisonous hellscape of Barbarous under the boot heel of his own adopted father. When the Emperor arrived, some wanted to play a little bit of catch with their dad at first, and some didn't trust the baseball bat he was carrying, and some didn't want to play at all. Eventually, one by one, the Emperor returned his sons to his side to bring them back together as one happy family.
Yippee!
A family who needed a good cleaning. Are you tired of boring old soap? Is your son the foulest being ever? Do your eyes sting when he comes near?
I mean, is the son a VTuber? If so, then yeah, I suppose.
Clean that man right back up with the power of Cheeky. That's right, the brand new moisturizing bar soap brought to you by Moist Critical.
I did not know Moist Critical had a soap brand. Also, by the way, I know I skipped his ad last time. I was not aware that Bricky makes really good ads. It won't happen again. I'm really intrigued now. So, you know, getting clean, hearing this ad as a VTuber, you know, is a little bit painful. You know, we are deadly allergic to being clean, but I will give it a shot, you know.
And Bricky approved. Nurgle hates it, but you'll love it. Bar soap is always so sticky and has a ton of fuss, but now you'll be glowing to the surprise of Lehman Russ. Cheeky soap is so good, we didn't even take a down payment for the sponsor. That's right, we love this soap so much, we are operating on 100% commission. We are supported purely and only by those of you who buy Cheeky.
Chad, we all need to buy Cheeky right now. If I use that type of soap, I might consider it, but I really don't. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a dirty VTuber.
It is the best bar soap we have ever used. That is not a hyperbole. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Take it from the man himself.
Bricky's right. It's very good.
Enjoy a multitude of flavors, including lo-fi lavender, pulp Francis, just soap, touch grass, and absolute cinnamon. Cheeky alone has made me swap back to bar soap as my primary choice. No more liquid soap for this brick. Cheeky is the play. Go ahead and go to usecheeky.com/Bricky or code Bricky for 10% off your purchase.
There you go. Check it out. That's the code. Screenshot it right now. Check it out. I don't know if the spawn is still up, but it might still be a good soap.
These videos. That's code Bricky at usecheeky.com/Bricky or click the link in the description to learn more. Get clean now.
I feel so called out. Damn, bitch, you live like this?
Oh, yeah, so half his sons turned on him. After the Emperor was able to bring all of his sons back into the fold again, he sent them on their way with his end goal in mind. Reclaiming the lost worlds of humanity. Each of his primarchs fanned out across the galaxy to accomplish this goal, but the one they were expected to report to was his favored son, and the first one found, allegedly, which was Horus. Horus was granted the title of War Master, and he certainly lived up to Big E's expectations, which were very specific and set by Big E himself to all of his sons. However, either intentionally or not, the Emperor did not mention to his sons some of the more chaotic aspects of the galaxy. Horus himself, while in the process of reclaiming a more advanced human world, was informed of the existence of chaos gods, a factoid that Horus initially did not believe. To him, it was a bit unfathomable to think that his father would emit such significant information on the inner workings of the galaxy. However, he soon realized this was the truth, and this betrayal was unacceptable. With the astronomical weight put on his shoulders and his father immediately leaving it all in his hands, combined with the slow corruption of his mind by those closest to him, he began to change his tune. Horus began amassing a following behind his father's back with several other primarchs and began to formulate plans to usurp him from
The Horus Heresy! I heard all about this!
his throne on Terra. While this was occurring, Magnus the Red tried to FaceTime his dad back on Terra, and that resulted in the shattering of a protective barrier between Terra and the demons of the warp.
Gosh darn
Due
it.
to this damage, the Emperor was forced to sit on the Golden Throne to assure that it would continue to function. Ultimately, half of the Primarchs would fall to chaos, and the remaining half would fight back viciously against their brothers. Horus eventually gained the upper hand and arrived in orbit above Terra itself, and after antagonizing his father enough, the Emperor temporarily removed himself from the throne, strategically putting his old friend there as a seat warmer, and went to confront Horus himself on the Vengeful Spirit, his flagship. The Emperor faced down his son, and after a heated battle and 64 novels, the Emperor
What? Am I a masochist if I kind of want to read those?
managed to obliterate Horus on a subatomic level, but not before his favorite son was able to mortally wound the Emperor. As the dust settled and the traitors fled from Terra, the Emperor's body was dragged back onto the Golden Throne, where it sits permanently to assure that it continues to function. A corpse forced to constantly hold back the horrors of the warp and guide humanity with his pale light. And that light is flickering. From there, the remaining members of the traitors to the Emperor fled to their respective safe havens. These are the veterans of the Long War, the spiteful, and to them, the wronged. Those who would let the galaxy burn if it means the Imperium gets caught in the flames. These are the
Chaos Space Marine. Oh, Chaos Space Marines.
And what are the achievements of your fragile Imperium? It is a corpse rotting slowly from within while maggots writhe in its belly. It was built with the toil of heroes and giants, and now it is inhabited by frightened weaklings to whom the glories of those times are half-forgotten legends. I have forgotten nothing, and my wisdom has expanded far beyond mere mortal frailties. The Horus Heresy saw the collapse of the Imperium as we knew it at the time, and half of the Space Marine legions fell to the ruinous powers. Though the favored son, War Master Horus, was killed and the rebellion ended, the heretical forces retreated to the warp and remain a constant threat to this day. The twisted reminder of what the temptations of the warp may bring, the Chaos Space Marines act as a mirror to the loyal legions, and as time progresses, their warp taint further changes them to suit the needs of their patron deity. Though marred and absolutely mangled by the ruinous powers, they are still unmistakably Space Marines in stature and shape, and according to them, they have never been more free. After the heresy, the loyal legions of Space Marines became very strict in their organization, and their separation into separate chapters with capped numbers and other formalities was done to prevent any form of heresy from happening again. The Chaos Space Marines are a bit different. Ultimately, these Marines are subject to the primary legions that fell to chaos in the...
Is that thing on the image one of them? That looks hella cool.
First place, the majority of these legions, the Black Legion, the Word Bearers, Iron Warriors, Alpha Legion, and the Night Lords, are supporters of Chaos Undivided, either enjoying the powers of all Chaos gods or sometimes shunning them altogether. But a few of them follow a very specific Chaos god. Thousand Sons are followers of Tzeentch, the Death Guard follows Nurgle, Slaanesh has their claws in the Emperor's Children, and the World Eaters are avid followers of Khorne. From there, the legions themselves are separated into roaming war bands that may go under their own unique names or may stake a claim to one of the primary legions. Most of the gear and armor of a Chaos Space Marine remains the same, but stylistically it changes quite a bit to reflect the intention of the legion or their patron god. The Death Guard's armor has become rotted and full of gaping mouths and plague-filled boils.
Oh, they're all different styles too? That's a lot of figurines that we could sell. Oh, nah, but it's really cool that they have their own styles too. That's sick. Like, this one looks really cool.
World Eater's sharp and violent armor reflects their bloodthirst, and the chaotic noise of the Emperor's Children armor, nipple rings included, pleases Slaanesh greatly. Due to the taint of chaos, the armor itself becomes less about plating and more about a new skin for any given Chaos Space Marine. Though the Chaos Space Marines have no true fear of death or numbers diminishing, there are still major recruitment efforts for their legions. However, the conscription of these recruits is a lot more chaos-fueled and is more of a forced assimilation, and in some instances, breeding. The organ implementations and other modifications are the same, and the necessity of a gene seed remains the same, but the result is a hell of a lot different. Understanding Chaos Space Marines is a difficult exercise. If we took my original video 5 years back and looked at the Imperial Knights section, it mainly focuses on big stompy robots. Now that I understand more, I can discuss the Code Chivalric, the Throne Mechanicum, Squires, and Monarchs, and bring some more context to it all. To assume Chaos Space Marines are simply the opposite side of Space Marines would be foolish, for once you understand the plight of their primarchs, it can provide a context always needed. Horus himself turned through an overwhelming weight on his shoulders and lies told by his father. But what of Angron? Angron lived as a slave gladiator for his planet's masters, who took Dark Age technology and shoved it into his brain, so experiencing any emotion other than rage was agony for him. He finally leads a revolt for his fellow gladiators and frees himself from the confines of servitude. The Emperor finds him and says he will take him home, but Angron refuses. He will fight with his friends against the tyranny of his slave owners to the last.
Is his name Angron because he can only feel anger? No, right?
At the final last stand with him and his closest friends, slave gladiators, all of them outnumbered and on the verge of death, the Emperor forcefully teleports Angron to his flagship and none of his compatriots, leaving Angron to live and watch all of his friends die.
Wow.
You kept that mule core Pharaon. Russ kept his kin friends. The Lion kept Luther. Humans, brothers, and foster fathers, saved and raised into legion ranks. But not me. Not Angron, no. Did the Emperor teleport his gold-wrapped custodians down to help me in my army? No. Did he free the warhounds and order them to battle, fight alongside me? No. Did he save my brothers and sisters the way he spared and honored the Lion's kin? The way he honored Cor Pharaon? No, no, and no. No mercy for Angron. Angron the Oathbreaker. Angron the Betrayer.
Okay, so see, that wasn't very cool of the Emperor, okay? It probably wouldn't have been a lot of effort to save his friends. I don't know. I kind of get why Angron would be pissed, you know?
Conrad Kurz lived as a lonely boy, scrounging the dregs of a hive city plagued by constant visions of an assassin sent to murder him by his own father. Lorgar was born on a world of chaos worshippers with abusive parents, and the Emperor decided the best way to reprimand him was destroy his holy city. The Emperor robbed Mortarion of vengeance and suppressed Magnus at every turn. The question isn't why the primarchs rebelled. The question is, why didn't they sooner?
True.
They are not the betrayers. They are the betrayed. They were under the boot of a golden tyrant, and they finally could be free from his heel. Of course, things have changed a lot since the Heresy, and the primarchs of the Chaos Space Marines that have survived the fall are a twisted variant of what they used to be. They have all, for the most part, ascended to the position of Demon Prince and act as a direct connection between their god and their legion. However, due to the nature of the transformation and dedication to a particular chaos god, their actions tend to be separate from their legion's actions. Fulgrim, for example, is so infatuated with being a Demon Prince of Slaanesh that he is at times far too focused on his own personal perfection as opposed to conquest and sitting around like Frankfurter on his throne. Meanwhile, Lorgar is being stalked by a bird, so he's always on edge.
Okay, what?
The most adamant against the temptations of the Chaos Gods, Perturabo, was even made a Demon Prince as a reward for being the one who did the most work on the group project. Chaos Space Marines are a fascinating faction because there is a great deal of cognitive dissonance that is represented in them. Depending on which faction you follow, your devotion to chaos is a sliding scale, and the representation in the universe is so varied. Some are there to reap a high tally of kills for their patron deity, while others are there purely to destroy the Imperium who wronged them. Some are there to torture and maim, and some are there to conquest and conquer. There is no unifying glue. They fight each other as much as they fight everyone else, and their machinations are entirely up to their warband. You have all walked different paths, but together we have come to the same destination. The Emperor has failed us. The Imperium has failed us all. It has failed us by the laxity of its laws, the decadence of its culture, and in the injustices heaped upon those of us who serve the most loyally. It has failed us by never recognizing our virtues, never rewarding us for the blood we shed and bringing about its ascendancy, and never providing unity when we needed it most. It has failed us by being flawed to its core, imperfect in its pursuit of a perfect culture, and in its weakness against the encroachment of Xenos breeds that seek to twist humanity to alien ends.
So to summarize, I think the quote is still continuing, but to summarize what I've heard so far, shit's fucked.
And it has failed us most of all by being founded upon lies. The Imperium is forged by a dangerous deceit and erodes us all by demanding we sacrifice truth on the altar of necessity. This is an empire propagated by sin that deserves to die. And here on Istvan V, we begin the purge. From these ashes shall rise the new kingdom of mankind, an Imperium of justice, faith, and enlightenment. An Imperium heralded, commanded, and protected by the avatars of the gods themselves. An empire strong enough to stand through a future of blood and fire.
Shit's fucked, but there is hope for the future. Let's go, humans. I mean, I will say the humans, they are very, very strong and they have survived a lot of shit. So, you know, they will survive this one. It's just not fun.
Naturally, however, as I have said before, Space Marines do not make up the bulk of the fighting force in the Imperium, so it would be ludicrous for me to not mention their dark cousins. The Code Chivalry is the sign of the power of the Imperial Knights. But what about
the Dark Mechanicum? Hi guys, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you! So I guess this is the Chaos counterpart for the Adeptus Mechanicus. Something like that, right?
The ruinous powers claimed during the Horus Heresy extended beyond just the Space Marines and the primarchs. Mars itself was subject to a revolution that saw half of them fall to chaos as well. And some of the once loyal knight houses saw themselves swearing fealty to the dark gods. The falling of these factions allows for the war machine of chaos to continue uninterrupted and to have firepower equal to that of the Imperium itself. The Dark Mechanicum, as the name suggests, is the chaos-affiliated branch of the Mechanicus, and have a lot more free reign, much like the freedoms of the Chaos Space Marines. The seeds of the Dark Mechanicum were planted fairly early due to some of the Mechanicum not really seeing the Emperor as the Omnissiah immediately.
They were like, man, this guy doesn't want to use AI, but Fruit Love Island is so good. Like, what do you mean? Disclaimer, I've never watched Fruit Love Island. I just heard that people like it.
And Horus exploited this to allow the schism to happen a bit more naturally. Unlike their Imperial brothers, the Dark Mechanicum have the ability to invent and innovate. What a concept. While also utilizing forbidden technologies such as the Silica Animus or AI. The Dark Mechanicum
Oh wait, I was right? Damn, they did use AI.
Own desires to find lost technologies and put them to use, but they're more interested in taking ancient and forbidden technology from Imperial worlds and activating them for their own purposes. Because what good is a bunch of knob and tube wiring if you don't overload it with as many extension cords as possible?
I low-key get it. If you're that nutty about technology, why the hell would you let anything stop you, right? If there is technology to explore and progress to be made, why would you let some arbitrary rules stop you from trying to learn more about it, you know?
However, instead of being clear-cut and more generalized creations, the inventions of the Dark Mechanicum are inherently tied with the warp and its demons. Genetic experimentation and modification, the fusion of man and machine are exceptionally common, and no creation is more reflective of this than the demon engines. Instead of regular tanks and vehicles, the demon engines are machines bound with the presence of demons to make them living war machines. Unlike the vehicles of the Imperium, where a Mechanicus priest may be there to aid in its repair, a warpsmith sorcerer is there to essentially repair and irritate the demon engine so that it can be a more effective killing machine. In certain factions, like the bitter and siege-loving Iron Warriors, they will lure demons with the promise of glory and easy bloodletting, only to then forcibly trap them into these demonic engines to use as weapons of war against the Imperium.
This sounds really funny because to me, demons are like the pinnacle of evil. But to be so evil that you have to trick demons to work for you? Like, that's ultimate evil, what do you mean? But I don't know if in Warhammer the demons are that evil.
Some lesser gods, like Vashtor the Archifane, is also a contract and arms dealer for the demonic stuff that comes out of chaos. Many demons may sign a pact with Vashtor in the soul forges of the warp, and in doing so are given the weapons of war to kill as much as they can. Should they do so, excellent, you may keep it. Should you not, I hope you enjoy your soul working in the forges for all eternity.
Oh.
That's what you signed with blood and oil. In addition, much like their ties in the Loyalist realm, the Dark Mechanicum and the Chaos Knight houses are deeply intertwined. There were, of course, many Knight houses that swore fealty and bent the knee to War Master Horus during the Heresy, but a good portion of them had no choice, as they were absorbed by warp storms and corrupted into compliance. Many of these Chaos Knights reflect the very early Dark Age technology Knights with more corrupted weapons. The Throne Mechanicum, which once had a noble sitting and taking control of generations of previous drivers and taming a beast, is now a saddle to a monstrosity of wrath and hatred. The nobles of the Chaos Knights fight to aggravate and bring the machine to their will while combating the corrupted minds of their fallen ancestors. Some of these nobles may do such a good job that they themselves fuse into the throne itself and become one with the knight. If a noble dies, no worries at all. Unlike the Imperial ones that require a pilot, a demon can hop into the cockpit and control it instead. The Night Worlds also see full corruption as well. Where there were once peasants, there are now cultists, and the goal of the Chaos Knights are just as chaotic as the gods they follow. Some are sent to war by the ruinous powers. Others may protect Dark Mechanicum Forge worlds, and others still may be so hyped up on the ruinous powers that they are just aimless and reckless, hoping to unravel the fabric of the universe itself. Though the aspect of nobility is still there with the Chaos Knight, but it's hardly the same as it is on the Imperial side. As opposed to a beautiful knightly stallion, the knights here are horrifying and unpredictable monstrosities, fueled in part by the agony of the memories of the ancestors trapped within. An invasion by a house of Chaos Knights is a horrifying thing. One might ask, how do knights enter the battlefield? Normally, they can be deployed via dropships the standard way, but Imperial Knights can be deployed with a drop keep. A gigantic knight keep with like towers and stuff will hurtle towards the surface like a drop pod and be slammed into the ground with an excessively thunderous crash. Then, massive drawbridges slam down, banners unfurl and huge horns play the song of their people as these lumbering robots charge out of their, again, drop keep to fight for the Imperium.
That is so insanely over the top. It's amazing. What do you mean? They come out of castles just to fight through drop pods resemble castles. That is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Love it.
So imagine what a warp-fueled version of this could look like.
If you get the opportunity, you should kill yourself.
Chaos Knights have such a presence, the warp fluctuates in their tread. They bring doom, dread, and despair across the battlefield. Warp storms occur overhead, and psychic phenomenon cling to them. A Chaos Knight will arrive either in some warp-debased platform, or perhaps a portal itself, or climb out of a pool of blood. As the air gets heavy, the enemy feels a crippling sense of paranoia, and the sky begins to rain blood, acid, and
oh my
God
gosh.
knows what else. The horrors of the warp have resulted in a dramatic change in technology in the favor of their forces. Though in practice, it is a horror beyond comprehension, their baseline desires don't seem that radical on paper. They are creative builders, working to innovate and improve technology while utilizing anything they can to accomplish their STEM goals. Looking at the dark forces of chaos and the Emperor now on his golden throne, humanity is fractured. The Emperor himself is the guiding light for warp travel for humanity, and in being that exists as a beacon for the entire species. Without him, things would get somehow worse. Therefore, he needs his protectors. Where a Thunder Warrior wasn't enough for his armies, and half of his Space Marines turned traitor, the Emperor's personal bodyguards are something else entirely.
Okay, prediction, because my chat tells me about Warhammer pretty often. I will guess that it's the Silent Sisters? Question mark. I think I've heard that float around in connection with the Emperor, but I might be completely wrong and just messing up the memory with something else. Let's see.
They are not the fallible Astartes, nor are they a nightmarish concoction of organs and indoctrination. They are built and gene-crafted, with science bordering on magic. They number 10,000 strong, and each of them is a hero. They are the
Adeptus Custodes. Okay, I was wrong. I do not know what the Silent Sisters do then, but we might still learn about it. The Adeptus Custodes. I've heard that before for sure.
Rare is the battle where an Emperor's custodians outnumber our foes. We are ever beset, surrounded upon all sides by heresy and foulness, just as is Terra itself. Yet, like the throne world, we stand resolute, indefatigable, indomitable. Let the enemy come. Let them darken the horizon with their numbers. Still, we will prevail. Though the Emperor sits rotting on the golden throne, his talons remain sharp. The talons of the Emperor was the name given to the most elite forces at his disposal. The left hand of his talons comes in the form of the Sisters of Silence.
Wait, I was right. Oh my gosh, so they are part of it.
That scoured the galaxy to claim souls, to fuel the Astronomicon in the form of the Great Tide. 1,000 psychers sacrificed daily to keep the Emperor of mankind alive, dragged into the black ships of the Silent Sisterhood. The right hand of the Emperor's protectorate, his golden bodyguards that serve him and only him. These are the Custodians. While the members of the Space Marines went out to take back the galaxy, the Legio Custodes stood back and kept a close watch over the Emperor himself. The Custodes are, in a sense, similar to Space Marines in that they are genetically modified super soldiers clad in power armor, but that is where the similarities stop. Their genetic makeup seems to be made from the Emperor himself, or at least something quite close. And the precision of their creation predates the development of the Space Marines and even the primarchs. Unlike Space Marine recruitment, where there's a process undertaken when a subject is at least somewhat grown, a Custodian's process begins at infancy.
Damn.
The methods in which they are made are a secret, but what is known is that at the very beginning, each Custodian was made by the Emperor himself. Regardless of the bioalchemical process, the process is exceptionally long and grueling, and only a handful of selected aspirants make it to the end. Those that do are clad in the most regal and effective armor in the Imperium. Commonly, a custodian is seen carrying a guardian spear, an utterly yoked up version of the staves the Praetorian guards of the Emperor in Star Wars had. They are also clad with specific shields and blades, but the most interesting thing with all of their gear is that due to the meticulous and dedicated maintenance and preservation of their armor and gear, these items are the same ones they used 10,000 years ago. The custodians do not age biologically, so some of the veterans in the guard may be several thousand years old.
Whoa.
And unlike the Space Marines, they fight entirely as a solo force. When a line of custodians is holding back waves of enemies, they operate independently. There are no battle formations, there are no squad tactics. Each custodian is the main character, trailed by serfs and servitors, tasked entirely to reload their weapons. They fight with a singular purpose, if not action. Groups of custodians will dispatch enemy after enemy, their spears coming within inches of each other, but never close enough for a killing blow. Their strikes are intentionally defensive, allowing their opponents to attack 1 to 2 times before parrying and ending their lives. Each strike deflected is an opportunity to know their enemy more and learn from their patterns. They are truly the Emperor's bodyguards, masters of close combat, enemy knowledge, and reactions measured in milliseconds.
They sound really cool and really OP and powerful. Is there any noteworthy custodians that are like famous?
Though the custodians are a part of the Adeptus Terra, the members of the guard only answer to their own leadership and the Emperor himself. The leader of the custodians is known as the Captain General, and individual squads of custodians are overseen by a shield captain. As their focus is on the Emperor, their command center is located within the Imperial Palace. The Tower of Hegemon serves as their primary base of operations, but there is a dedicated elite guard of custodians known as the Companions that stands 300 strong by the Emperor's side. In total, the custodians are 10,000 strong, and when a member retires, their name is added to the Hall of Name and vanish across the galaxy in a cloaked disguise to serve as eyes and ears for the Imperium.
Yo, a Hall of Fame, let's go.
Despite their numbers and their strength, the members of the custodians do not consider themselves to be soldiers or warriors in any way. They see themselves strictly as the guardians of the Emperor in all facets of his presence. This extends beyond the physical. Custodians believe they represent the guarding of the Emperor's ideals and philosophies too. Their gains are both physical and literary. They are the protectorates of everything the Emperor stood for, and in doing so, the custodians are also artisans and scholars, in addition to being the golden guard of the Golden Throne. However, due to this nature of being protectorates, they have a very strong view when it comes to the Space Marines and the primarchs. The Emperor himself had insinuated many times that once the galaxy was brought to heel, that there would be no need for the Space Marines anymore, and they were to go the same way that the Thunder Warriors went before them. The custodians were meant to be the judge, jury, and executioner of this will, and are biologically designed not only to be able to take down a Space Marine with ease, but to be able to go toe-to-toe with a Primarch as well. During the Heresy, the custodians mused on how suspiciously easy it was to kill Chaos Space Marines, as if they were trained and made for that explicit purpose. Constantine Valdor, one of the closest advisors of the Emperor, was asked if he ever disagreed with Bricky on something, and he said once, with the formation of the Primarchs.
I feel I do my best, but they don't.
Let me ask you a very fair question. What do you do successfully? Quickly.
Is this freaking RuPaul's Drag Race? That's so
I
funny.
hate that every time we're in Untucked, the conversations are about me.
And besides the trained distrust for Space Marines, the custodians also have evidence for their distrust. The Horus Heresy saw half of the chapters fall to chaos and turn traitor against the Emperor. In the mind of a custodian, the fact that half of the Space Marines fell before means that the other half can fall with ease. They are fully capable of wiping out literally any force put against them, and in a sense are the final representation of the golden age of terror. However, they are forced to stand in silent and blind service to the Emperor and to the ill of the Imperium. And they, for 10,000 years, have stood vigil over the Imperium and have watched its rise and fall with the inability to do anything about it.
Well,
While
that
they do
sucks.
go out and fight some battles here and there, at the end of the day, the vastness of the Imperium means that the closest advisors to the Emperor himself are powerless to make any change. But goddamn, can they kill a Space Marine? For 100 years, I stood my watch amidst the somber shadows of the Sanctum Imperialis. I was still as a statue, but always ready, always attuned to dangers unseen. Days, months, years passed by in a frenzied blur beyond those walls, yet within, little moved and nothing changed. For 100 years, I did not but wait, yet had any threat appeared, I would have struck it down in a heartbeat. For 100 years, I stood my watch, and as it ends, I can tell you this: patience is a weapon. Of course,
I will say, it sounds like they are the most OP things ever. However, they just have a miserable life because they can't actually do anything with their powers. Maybe that's for the better. They would probably wreak havoc if they were just able to do whatever they wanted.
threat directly to Terra itself would appear to be something foolish. It's in the deepest parts of Imperial space and is one of the most defended bastions in the galaxy. You truly have to be foolhardy or insane to think that you can take on Terra itself. However, one faction certainly got close. In the dark ages of the stars and in a river of misery, there is one faction having a cracking old time. The galaxy sees them as savages, yet they have already figured out the questions of the universe. Their numbers are uncountable, their technology incomprehensible, and yet their violence is so very green. I am, of course, talking about the...
Yeah! I've been waiting for this one! However, we're gonna have to watch that in the next one, because I did set myself a limit on how long I was gonna watch so that my voice doesn't get worse again. So, unfortunately, I'll have to stop here, but I'll record the next part soon and hopefully learn about the Orks. Yay! Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next part.